Hello, and welcome to this session on Heartfulness Relaxation and Meditation. This session forms the first part of the introduction to heartfulness and answers some basic questions in terms of what is heartfulness, what is relaxation, what is meditation, and what is the relevance of meditation in our lives today.
This is all about feelings. Our entire life is led by feelings and inspirations, and that is the role of the heart. And when we manage to listen to the feelings and capture the inspirations that comes from within, I think we can master our life by listening to heart again and again. And the whole exercise of fine-tuning the heart with the mind is through this meditation on the heart. That's why we call this process heartfulness meditation.
People even saying that they are seeing fundamental shifts in themselves. For example, people saying that, hey, nowadays I seem to be getting less angry. I seem to be getting less hassled by the world around me. Overall, we are very encouraged by these experiences and have now decided to roll out this program as part of all training programs at the firm.
Most of the constables are out of their problems, mentally as well as physically. The stress was not felt thereafter, and they really enjoyed the relaxation technique.
Every time we practice heartfulness relaxation in the morning, every day, it gives kind of a calm atmosphere. So because of that atmosphere, we're able to focus for the whole day, and because everybody else is relaxed, it also gives me a sense of peace.
It makes me calm down, which makes me go away from my anger, which makes me share more and do stuff for other people more.
Le vibrazioni si sentivano, decisamente.
Grazie. Ho anche sentito molto tutto quello che ci hanno spiegato.
Sono stata benissimo, ho fatto un po' di fatica così all'inizio, però poi sono riuscita ad entrare.
Before we get into the topic of heartfulness, perhaps it's a good idea to start the day with a question, something generic enough which would have people interacting with you and providing some kind of answers to the question which is up there on the slide. After you received some answers, you can share with them in what terms of what is scientific data, what scientists say is the number of thoughts that an average human being has in a day. And you might want to point out that a hyperactive human being might have perhaps well over 100,000 thoughts a day. And you might want to ask a question for them to reflect upon. While we seem to have thousands and thousands of thoughts in a day, how many activities do you successfully complete, let's say yesterday? And perhaps the difference between the two in terms of number of thoughts we have and number of activities that we successfully complete might account for a lot of noise in our head. It might be in terms of distractions, in terms of dissipation of energy, and that shows in terms of how efficiently we're using our mind. in the head, a lot of unnecessary distracting thoughts. Perhaps this is how our mind works. It seems to be almost similar to the traffic, in which there's a lot of traffic, a lot of vehicles, but nothing really seems to happen, nothing really seems to move. Again, there's a trick question you ask in terms of what they see and what is this. And of course, the factual answer would be that it's a monkey jumping trees. But then the point that we're trying to make here is that this is how our mind works. It jumps from thought to thought. It works through association, and it seems to be working all the time, not knowing where it is going. And when people are reflecting on what you're saying, is this really true? Is that really how my mind works? This is the time to do the first activity of the session. Invite them to test it for themselves. They don't need to listen to you, or they don't need to accept what you're saying at face value. Just ask them to close their eyes, settle down, give them half a minute to settle down, and ask them to pick a thought of their choice, any thought of their choice, and just try to hold on to it for a few minutes. Give them 2, 3, 4 minutes, and then you can gently bring them out and ask the question, hold on to the one thought that you wanted to hold on to. And the answer to this question, more often than not, would go along something like this. Most of them would say that they could not hold on, or for people who did hold on, perhaps did so for a few seconds, perhaps for hardly a minute, and then it started drifting away. This slide is pretty obvious. It's like in a classroom of students. When the day starts, the teacher takes attendance and every student is present. But when they start teaching in the class, most of them are out there flying kites, and they're not mentally present. They're not absorbing whatever the teacher is teaching. So it's like saying the teachers are teaching, are the students absorbing? But then to reassure them that they're not alone, most of the human beings, when they try and meditate, when they try to hold on to one thought for the first time, that this experience is very common. And reassure them that this is happening because we've never really trained our minds, but with a little practice, it will get much, much better. And then perhaps to ask a mood question, if you're not even able to hold on to one thought for such a short period of time, like 3 or 4 minutes, just try and imagine in terms of what our efficiency, what our productivity is, how effective we are in getting work done. And as against that, if through a process of training the mind, process of regulating the mind, we're able to hold our thought for longer and longer periods of time, then whatever activity we do, should it not become more efficient, should we not become more effective, that is really what meditation is about. And what we are doing through this process of placebo meditation is really to establish the need for meditation in their lives. The way to reflect on the wandering mind is that while our body is present in the present, our thoughts are either dwelling on the past, what they should have done or what they should not have done, or on the future, perhaps in terms of fantasy, or perhaps anxiety in terms of what the future holds. It's a slightly different angle on this problem, but we might want to say that we achieve the best when our mind, our thoughts, our body is completely aligned in the current moment, and we are completely focused. Our attention, our energies are completely focused on what we are working right now. But when it is elsewhere, that's what we call a misdirected thought. It's not where it is supposed to be, but it's elsewhere. And perhaps that's worry, that's anxiety, and that is exactly like what we want to avoid. And to become efficient, we need to learn to rest our mind in the present. Train our mind. How do we develop focus? How do we do away with the jumble of thoughts, or with thoughts bombarding us, and have clarity of thought so that our mind is focused and we can achieve a lot? So, this is a apt juncture to introduce what meditation is. Let's establish this very clearly with the audience that meditation is nothing but a technique to train the mind. There are many techniques to train the body. We go to the gym, we exercise, we consume healthy food, and so on. And depending on the audience, you might also want to mention that just like going to the gym or exercising has nothing to do with religion, meditation also is just a technique to train the mind and doesn't have anything to do with religion. And through meditation, what we learn is to rest the mind on one thought for a period of time. A couple of additional point you might want to mention here is again drawing that analogy with the physical training, which is exercises. If we do exercise 20 or 30 minutes in the morning, it is not only during the 20 or 30 minutes that our body feels fresh and energized, but it remains energized right through the day. Similarly, when we train our mind and regulate our mind through meditation, through a practice of meditation, we learn not only to rest our mind on one thought, whatever be that choice that we make for that 20 or 30 minutes, but right through the day, we develop the ability to focus our mind on whatever it is that we're working in that moment. And that is how really meditation helps throughout the day. Where you can see that through a magnifying glass which focuses the rays of the sun onto a single point by bringing it to focus, it's able to light a fire to a piece of paper. Similarly, the point that we're trying to make here is that the mind is enormously powerful, but then without focus, it can't do much work. By bringing the ability to focus on one thing through meditation, what we're doing is really realizing the potential of what the mind has to offer. So the key is to bring the mind to focus, and that is exactly what we achieve through meditation. So why meditate? These are some of the reasons, but there could be so much more, and you can welcome them to Google or to do some research to find out how meditation helps. What we've covered so far is just meditation as a technique. Now, meditation starts with the mind, it has to do with the mind before it gets into deeper levels. But then here, we're not only talking about meditation, but we're talking about heartfulness meditation. So there is the question of heart which comes up in this context. So let's step to that question of what the heart really represents. In the picture here, you can see that there are birds of various hues and colors that's coming out of the heart. And what this might represent is that there are several qualities in the heart, and this might be positive or negative or shades of gray in between. But what we are is really represented by our heart, and that is what this picture represents. It might be positive or negative. If you take positive qualities, you might talk about patience, tolerance, courage, conviction, confidence, inner strength, faith, compassion, kindness, mercy, most of all, love. I mean, the list is endless. So you could talk about so many positive qualities which a human being could have. Or it could be just the opposites: lack of patience, impatience, intolerance, jealousy, pride, lust, and so on and so forth, right? So, what is it that we have inside of ourselves? Because our inner qualities really define who we are. Now, the question is, if whatever inner qualities we have is what makes us into what we are, the question is, can we change ourselves? Is it possible, just like there is black and there is white and there are lots of shades of gray in between, we probably are some shade of gray out there. But is it possible that through a practice, through a systematic practice, that we can slide that scale and develop positive qualities in ourselves? That is the key question. And the answer that we provide from heartfulness meditation is yes, Absolutely, it is possible for us to transform ourselves from the inside, to change those qualities and to develop positive qualities. And that is what heartfulness meditation is about. So, the reason we meditate on the heart is because the heart is the seat of human character, and it represents all the inner qualities that we possess. And to bring about inner change, we meditate on the heart. So we fine tune the heart, and when we bring about change to the inner qualities we have by meditating on the heart. And that, in a sense, is heartfulness meditation and why we do it. Now, in the context of what we learn in institutions, it might be in terms of soft skills like goal setting, like time management, like values, and so on. Now, it is easy to learn something because it only has to do with the intellect and understanding comes easily. But we have experienced this in our lives many times that we know what needs to be done, but it is very difficult to do it. You can take this example of New Year resolutions. Everybody makes New Year resolutions, but how many people really keep up with it? You might want to ask this question in class if anybody has actually kept a resolution and how often have they kept resolutions. Now, what is the gap between knowing something and doing something? And you might want to share here that knowing is easy because it only has to do with intellect and understanding comes easily. But doing is far, far more difficult because it requires so many more inner qualities in order to do something, okay, to bring about inner change. For example, if I need to get up in the morning, it will require discipline because I need to get up early in the morning. It requires perseverance because it's not just getting up in the morning one day, but it's getting up day after day after day. It requires energy, it requires attitude. It definitely requires sacrifice because doing something and bringing about change means I typically we give up something pleasurable to do something that is actually going to do good for us. It's like instead of lazing in bed, we get out of bed. Instead of eating ice cream, we control our temptations and decide not to eat ice cream and so on. Right? We need courage because there could be peer pressure. Our friends might laugh at us, telling us, see, I mean, this guy, like, he thinks he's going to become a saint by doing meditation, perhaps, or he's not having fun and whatnot. Like, that's peer pressure. It takes a lot of courage to stand up and face peer pressure and continue to decide to do what you decide is good for you. The last one is willpower. Through a practice of meditation, we increase the amount of willpower we have. But what really is willpower? Perhaps it's the last mile and the gap between thought and action. Willpower is perhaps what translates thought into action. Now, how do we really measure it? Someone I know gave this beautiful example that every single person can measure what their level of willpower is. He defined willpower as the time it takes from the moment a person is completely awake in bed, the time it takes for him or her to actually get out of bed. So, how does meditation help? How is it relevant to us? It really is in terms of if you're looking at inner change, trying to become a better human being, trying to develop positive qualities, then there is a need to actually act and bring about inner change. And that is really where meditation comes in and where heartfulness meditation. To re-emphasize that we talk little, but the essential aspect of heartfulness meditation lies in its experience. And after this, what you the participants to heartfulness relaxation and meditation, and you might want to ask them to settle down and take them through the relaxation and meditation practice itself so that they can experience for themselves what our system has to offer. At the end of the session, you might want to ask them how they felt, take questions, and close the session. Thank you very much and have a good day.